The discussion I'm going to have today with you is Kundalini and human evolution in the digital age and how they bridge together. First, I want to talk about is what is the purpose of Kundalini in the evolution of the human soul? Like, why are we even talking about this? And it's to bring a greater awareness to the conscious mind about our reality, is so we understand what is really going on, and we understand it consciously, not just subconsciously. Because our bodies don't just end at our fingertips, and these are things we're starting to find out and being able to prove with science. And these are things I find so incredible. We can actually bridge what we find in our intuition, and we're able to verify these things through scientific and very pragmatic experiments and academic studies. And this way we realize that our awareness, does not just end at our fingertips. For example, we start to learn how to develop the sensations of what is an energy field, what is our intuition, what are these things, and how do we cultivate that? And then we find we're connected on a subconscious and psychic level because we're just pinpoints of consciousness and a soup of cosmic energy. And in our meditations, we're able to feel this and sense this. And then the question is, well, how do we bring this information into the world? And how do we actually, make it more of a reality instead of something we just experience? How do we integrate it into our day-to-day lives in order to create shifts in the world that we live in? So this is why, of course, Kundalini and awareness of what Kundalini is and awareness of spirituality, why this is important. And luckily, through the use of technology, social media, we have all these tools to connect with each other these days. And there is a movement towards spirituality and education. We're finding out more and more people want to learn about all different types of spirituality. And we have a far greater capacity to connect with each other. So what's happening is people are becoming far more aware of what's happening in the world itself and even issues that we need to address to make the world a better place. But one thing I want to demonstrate through data is that the world is actually becoming a better place. This information is from a website you can look at yourself called ourworldindata.org. And I find all types of data points very fascinating. So what we're looking at here is homicide rates in the United States and how they've increased and decreased. And if you take a look, you will actually notice that right now we're at an all-time low from we're back to like the 1950s. And even though perceptually it might seem like things are getting worse, it's because we actually have access to so much more information these days. And we have so much information we never had before, but things are actually getting better. And so if you look at the next slide, worldwide, this is another great one, from the 1800s until now, you take a look at, again, homicides. I mean, these are things, we think about. It's a very real thing. How is it getting better? How are we developing as a human race to become more compassionate and have these things happen less? Another very hopeful slide is life expectancy globally and in the world regions since 1770, how things are expanding. We are healthier. We have so much more awareness about what we really need to sustain ourselves. And then the next one is another slide that I love is literacy across the world from the 1800s. And we see in the blue space that literacy, thankfully, is expanding exponentially. And we can thank people in our world governments. We can thank people who work at the UN. We can thank people who are policymakers who actually create these changes in the world and people who are passionate about these types of projects. And then we say, well, how does mysticism and spirituality translate into these actions to make the world a better place? So I would like to talk about this for a second and how our consciousness, how we impact each other on a subconscious level. So if you go to the next slide, This is where science meets spirituality. And I actually put these 2 links in here in case anybody wants to go back and take a look at these studies, because these are the things I find fascinating. So first of all, we have a whole movement of awareness of spirituality, education about spiritual experiences, Kundalini, what does it mean? One of our speakers talked about, misperceptions of what Kundalini or even spiritual awakenings are in some of the more traditional medical and mental health fields. And we talk about, what does it mean to have sudden expansion of consciousness to the point of where someone is just so used to being in a 3-dimensional world and suddenly becoming clairvoyant at the drop of a hat and not understanding what that's about. Well, this type of information that we're getting out to people helps people understand more about just the nature of being human and our capacity as being human. And these studies, which I love, are actually, they point to, let's say, the hidden capacities we have as humans. So for example, we have one which is a brain-to-brain interaction at a distance study. It's a pilot study, and this study itself shows how one subject in one location will actually have an impact on another subject over 1,000 miles away, I believe in this study, will have an impact on their brainwaves. Their brainwaves begin to entrain, and this is the fact that we now have scientific data that our brainwaves can entrain with each other at a distance is really quite phenomenal. And that also leads right into this other study, which was conducted in 1999 under several of these studies about transcendental meditation groups and how these groups impacted let's call it the small society around them. Let's see, this particular one was in Washington, D.C. And they proved statistically that through meditation, a specific time in meditation, that crime rates actually went down during that time. I think, granted, it was about 400 people that got together. But it just shows how, as a collective, what we think about impacts the people around us and can impact how other people think and what other people feel. And the fact to me that this is scientifically proven is just phenomenal, because it takes all the mystical experiences that you have and makes them so real. And also in our world now, where we really have a reason to take action on these things because we know they have a result, and that we can really make a difference in the world with this as well, just by how we think about things. And, just to show another interesting little diagram here on the organizing a morphic field. Morphic fields were introduced by Rupert Sheldrake, and it's a somewhat controversial theory, but I actually really like it. It makes a lot of sense to me. If you've ever heard of the 100th monkey effect, this is very similar to that. It's, what we think about, and these ideas have a life of their own. So cultures have a life of their own. Even the subconscious information that we hold as a collective group in humanity, like what we believe symbols to mean across cultures. This type of information is, agreed upon culturally. It's quite fascinating, even without us talking to each other. So information can be transmitted on a subconscious level. So this is something else that, if we are thinking more spiritually and we are thinking more from a point of love and compassion, this translates, and it's sort of contagious. We can think about it as we ignite people with love and compassion as we become more and more in contact with people. Let's see, I wanted to move on to this other slide now and talk about spirituality is principle based. So it's a translation. How do you translate spiritual principles into the world so that they become something that can be integrated by anyone, no matter what place what state of mind they're in, what they're operating from, how do you take the things that we translate from mystical experiences and make them real in the world to create change? And I like looking at these things, how can we even translate this into the workplace? Because this is somewhere we all spend a great deal of time in our lives, is working, of course. And spiritual principles, they're translated into things like ethics and trust, belief in a higher power, respect for each other, understanding, openness, giving and kindness. These types of things are things we learn to cultivate in our spiritual practices, no matter what type of tradition we're from. And especially, having had spiritual and Kundalini awakenings, these become principles that become so integrated into our beings. We really just want to share them. And what are some principles you can bring to the workplace? That's why, to me, this is so important. And this has a lot to do with, with having businesses that have a team orientation, few organizational barriers, a sense of peace and harmony, even aesthetically pleasing environments. You hear about this with companies like Google, encouraging creativity, diversity, being self-motivated, and interconnectedness in the workplace. And also, I hope, these slides will be in place as well if you want to review this material. So I found that one of the types of companies that bring these values into the world is something called a B corporation. They really encompass these values because they want to see more companies being for the benefit of humanity. And I think this is a wonderful trend and a reflection of where we are as a human race and how we are starting to more consciously evolve into a sense of wanting to connect with each other, even through business, and wanting to make the world a better place through business. So again, this is to me a symbol and an indicator of hope for our future. So anyway, my gosh, yeah. So this, what I also wanted to leave you with really is, we have all these tools at our disposal. The world is becoming a better place, and we're so lucky to be living in a digital age where things like social media, it gives us the capacity to really connect with each other and to find our tribes. And because when we have our tribes, then we can reinforce the values which are dear to us, because then we have other people to reflect that back to us. And then we also can elevate our consciousness by having very supportive people around us. And then we have a chance to continue to expand and to continue to spiritually grow, and also to implement these values and principles into the world that we might not want to do on our own, but we really feel like we need a team around us. So Kundalini can be just a one-time experience where you feel this amazing energy move through you, or it can be something you cultivate. It can be, with a community, we can expand it, and through education as well, through understanding what it's about. And sometimes people have a great deal of challenges with Kundalini awakening, and through education, we can help each other understand, what this is meant to be, and how we can, utilize this all to become more peaceful, kind, and compassionate, and connected as a tribe. So anyway, I wanted to just leave you with that thought to be, find ways to find more connection, to find your tribe of people with similar spiritual values, because then we can really make these changes and utilize the science to back it up. Also, of course, we talked earlier about the online class that I've put together, because I feel very passionately about education in this area, and it's how to live with active Kundalini. And this course I put together just bridges everything from, what is Kundalini, to how do you utilize this information in the workplace? What types of things should you be looking for if you're looking for support or help? So things like that. So I hope that gave you something to think about and investigate, and find a way to integrate these beautiful spiritual musings that we have, and find ways to implement kindness and compassion in the world. So thank you.